Hello Epic Gamers! Welcome back to another cast of TnT. Today we'll be casting an open game, open group match from Group B between Kerpa and Jason Blade. Let's get right into it. Jason Blade spawning in the south with beautiful blue and Kerpa in the north in Archimedes yellow. Ooh. Same decks from both players. Kerpa taking lizards instead of pigeons. Otherwise, these are decks that used to be meta in the previous patch, but they should work in this patch as well. Pigeons versus lizards. Lizards do counter pigeons and allow for easy sneaky plays. There's a bit of a backdoor to Jason's Blade's base in here, so Kerpa could do some interesting plays with them. And Squizzard is also pretty good early game, but pigeons do complement the boar really well because they allow him to survive. And a living boar is like a second boar. It hits harder or something like that. Kerpa expanding and Jason Blade going to 3 units. Jason Blade going into tier 2 I mean. While Kerpa getting up to 3 farms. That could be exploited by Jason Blade, but it will take 30 more seconds for the camps to get out. So he probably doesn't have a... He does have a window, but it will be pretty tight. Yeah, that's a lot. He's quite behind in food right now. And Kerpa going into his own tier 2. If Jason Blade hits before they get out, he should be able to take down the mill. That would be a huge win for him. He scouted it. Scouted it at tier 2. Ooh, and Jason Blade going into his own expansion. Not exploiting the slight window he had, but he isn't that far behind. Well, he kind of is, but it's not something you can't come back from. This is a pretty good defensive position with the lake here. Kerpa will have a hard time crossing over, meaning in a very long game, Kerpa would have more mills. Jason going to double tier 2 and massing tier 1 and not putting any farms on his blade as Kerpa maxes out the second mill. Jason really wants to push right now, yes. Trying something sneaky with his scams right now. And Kerpa going into the tier 3. While Jason Blade is incredibly behind in eco. Kerpa is doubling Jason's money right now. And has an earlier tier 3. Also getting into double camps and yeah. Kerpa floating 300 food, but he still has a big enough army to defend, so it doesn't really matter. Especially if Jason Blade isn't going to attack. Kerpa should maybe spend some of his money. I mean, 600 food, that's a bit too much. Triple Falcon, not bad. Waiting for the board to get paid. Jason Blade ecoing up a little bit. While Kerpa is already half of his third mill farmed up. Jason Blade somehow still ahead in army, despite having a huge eco disadvantage. Only at 8 farms right now. Kerpa at 16. And at 12 falcons. The bar is almost out. Oh. And finally, Kerpa overtakes Jason Blade in his army. And at this point, Jason Blade really can't do anything. His army is nothing, his eco is nothing. He could do some sneaky plays with his camps, but... Oh? Going for a little bit of a base flank. He could snipe this mill, while Kerpa is trying to get the ninja mill on the other side, being distracted. But taking down the mill, and his army is split up. Jason Blade will be able to defeat him in detail. Might be able to defeat him in detail. Taking out all the camps, and now the squirrels are... Squirrels not being able to take down many falcons, only 1 or 2. But at least they took down the bar. And Jason Blade might be able to recover enough of his entire air troops to hold on the counter-attack. Ooh, this will be a free Warren to pick off. Well, unfortunately, looks like Kerpa has too many units and will be able to take the game because of his huge eco advantage, despite having his army split up. Jason Blade simply yeah, didn't exploit Kerpa's farming up and takes the match 1. Let's go to match 2. Match 2, Jason Blade versus Kerpa. Jason Blade in the south again, Kerpa in the north. Kerpa switching up his deck. Now he has Ferret, Fox, and Balloon. Balloon playing really nice with Ferret Fox. It's a really cool comp, but the Pigeon is... well, while Kerpa doesn't have really any tanking units, making the Pigeon a bit less useful, he took the Pigeon just in case Jason Blade had Snakes, because Snakes can delete the Fox really easily. Yeah, the Pigeons are here mainly to keep the Fox safe, which is a good idea. Jason Blade also switching up 2 of his units. Well, 1 of his units, or well, whatever. Switching out his MG for the mine, and the Falcons for the Ferret. A bit more of an offensive comp, mid-game offensive comp. Falcons being really good for the late game, so giving up that strategy. Ooh, Jason Blade actually trying a 2 Warren rush against Kerpa. Kerpa building the 1 defensive Warren. Jason Blade could totally attack, push into this, take out the Warren and even the 2 building picks if he decides to push. If he decides to push. If he decides to push. If he decides to do anything at all. Farming up instead, while Jason Blade, while Kerpa builds up his 2nd Warren. Jason Blade completely fumbling the ball and not exploiting his army advantage. And this Warren was completely isolated. It was a forward Warren, completely isolated. Even if it's on the high ground, he could totally snipe it. That's really unfortunate. Jason once again fumbling the ball. Giving up his army advantage, or not using up his army advantage in order to gain a game advantage. And Kerpa now, after gaining a bit of an eco lead in the early game, decides to go into ferrets and will try to do some bit of pushing. While Jason Blade just built up his army. 5 squirrels. That means Kerpa will not be able to push, because Jason Blade now has the fighting army advantage. First round really good in an actual fight. Pigeons. Yeah, sells them off, realizes they wouldn't want to be useful here. Ooh. Jason Blade setting up some forward mines, a good idea if they weren't scouted. Unfortunately, both mines get picked off. And Jason Blade now tries pushing into this army, a good idea. He has the army advantage. And takes a nice, easy cleanup, cleans up all of the enemy squirrels, and is now pushing. He will be able to take out few units maybe. The threat being completely useless, shooting at long dead squirrels, and it was an even trade, so pushing out like this was not the worst idea. And taking out the campfire, maybe buying it as well. Yeah. So not a bad idea, but you have to watch out for the ferrets. Ferrets could easily snipe that. Maybe he should put some mines up on this road. Kerpa going into the fox, and Jason Blade going into the boar. Kerpa will have to watch out for mine clusters, which could easily take out the fox, and otherwise, yeah, in a straight up push, the boar will obviously win. But if Jason Blade doesn't take out the fox early, or doesn't push, the fox will prod him out, and he'll die, bleed out over the course of the game. Kerpa also going into some falcons, a really good idea against the boar, because the boar can't hit falcons. Both players now having an expansion. Kerpa already 2 farms, but Jason Blade had this campfire, so Jason Blade actually has the eco advantage right now, or at least a slight eco advantage. Kerpa going to push out just when his fox comes out, and he will try pushing, prodding from this high ground. Ooh, actually going into a standard push. The square counts are actually pretty even. And with the fox's support and having a little bit more squirrels results in Kerpa's victory. All the unfortunate defenseless pigeons getting sniped now. Oh, and pushing into the worms right now. For just a few seconds until it finishes. Ooh, unfortunate fox pathing, but she doesn't die, luckily. Now the boar's out and Jason will be able to push out the fox. The board cleaning up all of the tier 1. But the fox snipes down the board really easily, and Jason Blade has no army and quits. Fox giving Kerpa the victory. The score is 2-0. Let's go into the next match. Kerpa versus Jason Blade. Game 3. Kerpa on a match point. Jason Blade switching up his deck once again, going into Badger Lizard with Falcon this time. Kerpa switching also, now has the Owl and Skunk, and Wire. The Owl being countered by the Badger does give the late game advantage to Jason Blade. And the Squizzard from Jason Blade could also counter Kerpa's Falcons and Skunk. So the early game should be in Jason Blade's advantage. Jason Blade trying a rush. Actually, Kerpa trying a rush. Jason Blade responding with 2 of his own warrants. Looks like neither player is going to try a push. Both players farming up a bit. After the initial posturing, arms race. Both players on 7 farms. And both players on 8 farms. The rush fizzled out as both players played safely. Jason going into an expand. And Kerpa is going to try out for a push out. Try out a push while expanding. Maybe he's just securing an expansion actually. Jason Blade going into more lizards. He will be able to push out Kerpa from his expansion, maybe. If he fires the squirrels correctly and doesn't target the mill. But he doesn't have to because he's actually farming up on his expansion. Securing the early game eco lead while Kerpa has the bigger army. Jason Blade scouting out a potential flanking location for his lizards. He's going to try to snipe a few farms, and Kerpa being out of position with calling even the rest of his army away. Was completely open on the flank. Jason Blade securing a really nice 2 pig kills for the price of 3 lizards. Like 60 food profit minus the income. Huge lead for Jason. Epic plays. Kerpa now securing his flank with a bit of wire. And Jason Blade going into double tier 2. Ferrets for pushing and falcons for shooting. Jason Blade farming up even more, securing his eco lead. Kerpa now with the army advantage. He could have pushed before the tier 2s came out, but he might be trying to push right now. But recalls his army instead. Trying to protect the mill rather than taking out Jason Blade. Ooh, and building the Great Wall of China with his wire. Jason doesn't have any melee troops, so he will not be able to take out the wire. Unless lizards count as melee troops. I don't think they do, but they might actually count as melee troops, I don't remember. Kerpa going into the owl. Behind the wire. And Jason Blade farming up even more. Kerpa going into his own tier 2, falconing up. If Jason Blade doesn't go into the Badger, the Kerpa's Owl will definitely be very useful in combat. And will be easily able to take out Jason Blade's tier 1. Jason going into pigeons. And finally, oh! Yeah, dropping down the Badger. Seeing the Owl, dropping the Badger. Knowing it counters the Owl. And now Kerpa sees the Badger. Will he sell the Owl? Try for a push? The Owl is already out, so that might not actually be such a good idea. He might try a push, trying to take out the Jason Blade before the Badger comes out. Mice are already building up. Drops down the second Owl. Mass Owl does counter Badger, because the mice will get him before he revs up. But can Kerpa get out enough owls before Jason Blade punishes him? Kerpa keeping his owls in the back for now. and getting out even more falcons to counter the badger. Both players going up to the third expansion, third mill. Ooh, nice commander save, will be able to scout everything Jason Blade has in the back. Ooh, Kerpa supply blocking his second isle for a bit. And Jason Blade going for a bit of a poke maybe with the badger. Or just repositioning it and farming up a bit. Oh, he's going to try to clean out the wire maybe. He has a lot of pigeons. Maybe he will try a flank instead, taking the same route as in his first flanking attack. Going straight through the river around the barbed wire. Ooh, getting a nice rev up on the mill. And all of Kerpa's units were funneling through a tight choke around the river. But manages to take out the forward badger anyway. But Jason Blade has too many falcons and takes out all of Kerpa's anti-air. The second owl comes out, but all of them are getting picked off. Piecemeal. Looks like Jason Blade's death ball will be able to take out all of Kerpa's infrastructure. Kerpa has no warrants left, only 2 flying warrants, I guess, owls. But he has no standing army, no anti-air, and Jason Blade takes the victory, preventing a clean sweep from Kerpa. Well played from Jason Blade, even though it was a bit unfortunate how we lost the badger. Yeah, let's go to the next game. Jason Blade versus Kerpa, match 4. Kerpa still on his match point, taking the badger balloon. Jason Blade going back to the bar. Map is pretty evenly split with the river, but Jason Blade does have the extra mill. Extra 2 mills. I guess it's not very evenly split then. Looks like a standard early game. We see no rushes. Both players dropping down early warrants, no early expands. 3 warrants from Kerpa, same from Jason. Both players scouting everything. Far warrants from Jason. Kerpa selling off into some ferrets. Ferrets being a really good choice against Jason's Mass Tier 1. Although a Squizzard composition should be able to counter skunks based on if you have good positioning. And Kerpa tearing up and expanding behind the protection of the skunks. Meanwhile, Jason Blade going into his own expansion and ferrets. Ferrets being only good on the offensive when you're ahead. It might not be a good idea to expand instead of focusing purely on attacking when going into ferrets. Kerpa farming up greedily on his... well, it's not very greedy. His skunks can defend this land choke and water chokes really well. Meanwhile, Jason Blade farming up to 2 farms and going for a sneaky push with his ferrets. He might be able to snipe a few units, but He probably won't be able to do much. He might even lose this ferret. Oh, that's unfortunate. Walks it into a corner and gets cornered. That's a minus 60 food for free. And then, oh no, moves through the river right into the skunks. The skunk damage doing huge damage. Huge skunk spread. In the end, both armies straight out actually relatively evenly. Ignoring the 60 food free loss of the ferret. Ooh, and Kerpa going into the badger behind all of this. Well, it wasn't behind, after the battle. And Jason Blade going into a squizzard composition, wanting to jump on the skunks, avoiding the skunk gas. Ooh, Kerpa going into even more skunks. And Jason Blade finally is selling off his ferrets, going into double falcon. And farming up his expansion even more at a pretty sizable slight eco lead. While Kerpa has the slight army lead. And the tech advantage with his badger starting to build. Jason Blade going for a scout run. Unfortunately, welcome to the entire nice squirrel army. Probably being able to scout the badger. And Kerpa farming up almost his whole second mill. Jason Blade getting into even more falcons. Afraid of the badger. 10 falcons. But will they be online in time for Kerpa's attack? The badger is out. And we might be expecting a push from Kerpa. Taking advantage of his army lead. Huge spike from the badger. Oh! And Jason Blade just sold off some of his squirrels. Jason Blade has a big disadvantage right now. Even letting Kerpa rev up on the edge fire. Unfortunately, the badger with the supporting are leaving too much for Jason Blade's army. And Kerpa takes the victory. 3 versus 1. Congratulations to the win, for the win. And yeah, that's it for this match. See you next time.